The 1-year anniversary to the CraftCrumbs channel is happening in 1 week. Some of my very first videos were woodland themed DIYs, so we are doing it again to celebrate the milestone. My name is Melissa. This is CraftCrumbs. Thank you for joining me. We're turning these simple shadow boxes into high-end woodland decor. They measure 5 inches, and I picked these up at Michael's. I'm also using 3 of the square wood planks that come in a pack of 6 at Dollar Tree. I want the plank to fit inside the shadow box, so I'm going to cut it down by about 1/4 of an inch on 2 sides, and do that on all 3. For the next step, I'm going to need a stencil, so I'm grabbing this pack of beautiful woodland stencils that I picked up from Amazon. I'll link these in the description box for you. Here I'm just laying out the different stencils on a black piece of paper so that you can more easily see the different designs. And just checking to see the way they lay down on the wood blank to make sure they're going to fit the way I want them to. And I will tape these down so that they don't move and shift while I'm working. Now you can use any spackle for this. I'm using the lightweight spackle from the Dollar Tree and using my putty knife, completely covering the top of that stencil. Now that I'm done applying putty to all 3 of the wood blanks, I'm going to start removing the stencil to reveal what's underneath. Here is what they look like at this point. You can see that there are some small ridges in this, which we will sand down after letting it dry for about 20 minutes. I'm using a very fine sandpaper and just going around the edges and over top of the spackle. And then I have this little tool that has a sander on one end and a slanted edge on the other. I really like these because they help you get in to where the details are. I painted the outside of the boxes and the faces of those wood planks in a white acrylic paint. I had gotten a little bit of the white paint on the back, so flipping it over with that same fine sandpaper, just sanding off those white areas. This will ensure a nice clean finish to the backside. I pulled some of these little squares out of my stash. This came in a pack of several from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to glue 4 of them on the inside of each of the shadow boxes. Setting those aside to dry, I'm going to move on to the face of the project. I'm going to lightly brush on my antiquing wax using a man's beard brush, again from the Dollar Tree. These beard brushes are a nice alternative to a more expensive wax and chalk paint applicator brush, and in my opinion they blend more easily and clean up more easily. I'm going to show you with this DIY what it looks like with just a light covering of the wax, and then later what it looks like with a darker covering, so you can see both ends of the spectrum and decide which one you like the most. Moving forward, I changed my mind about the white edges to the box, so I'm going in with my wax and covering those as well. And all that's left to do is to glue those top pieces into the shadow box. This video is part of the What Would You Make challenge. The host is DIY Craftaholic, Rustic and Lace DIY, and our guest host is Country Lily DIY Décor. I have all of their channels as well as the full playlist linked in the description box for you. Here it is complete with 1 coat of the Waverly antiquing wax. And here is the darker version where I added a 2nd coat of the wax. Right here you can see that the wax is still a little wet. This will dry down to a more matte finish. Let me know in the comments if you would prefer the lighter or the darker version of this one. This next one turns out so sweet. I'm using these real edge wood slices from the Dollar Tree and stacking them 5 high. I need a base for this, so I'm pulling out of my stash a small round wood slice that came in a larger pack from Hobby Lobby. There's really no setup time for wood glue on raw wood like this, so we can easily move on to the next step without worrying that it'll fall apart. I'm using a few different elements to design this candlestick. I have my dried flowers here in color purple. Purple is a beautiful transition into fall color. I also have these tiny shrubs. They are preserved flowers from Temu. And I'll add wildlife using resin figurines from the kids sections at Hobby Lobby. If you are enjoying this video, give it your stamp of approval with a thumbs up. Leave me a comment letting me know which is your favorite. Here I'm adding preserved greenery that I picked up at Michael's last fall. Now it's time to make this pretty little gal a candlestick. This candlestick will definitely hold the candle at full length, but I wanted it to be a little shorter, so I'm breaking it in half. And then I'm going to glue it to the inside of a candle cup that I picked up in a pack of 20 from Amazon. Once I have the candle cup glued to the top wood slice, I can further embellish. Now this is not a candle that I intend to burn. You can see that the wick is black, and that's because I lit it long enough to make it black and to give it the appearance that it's a candle that's being used. If you intend to burn the candle, then you should skip this next step. I'm adding a few more of my purple and pink dried flowers to embellish up one side of that candlestick. Here is what it looks like complete. This is giving spring vibes and we're heading into fall, but who cares? You should always craft what you love and not be held captive to the season. This turned out absolutely adorable. It's a project that you can make in a few minutes and keep displayed year-round. Let me know in the comments what you think about this one. For this next project, I'm using a wood blank from Hobby Lobby. It cost $2.99 and then I got 30 or 40% off of that. I used green chalk paint to cover the surface and then dried brush white chalk paint over that. And now I'm just taking some of these natural elements from my yard, starting with 2 pieces of bark here and trying to create sort of like a vase shape that's going to hold our greenery. This one piece of bark had two natural holes in it, so I started to fill it in with a few things, thinking they're holes, they should have something in them. But I will change my mind about this a little later in the project. For now, I'm going to add in these faux fern leaves to make it look like they're growing outside of the bark. And I'll use a variety of different shades and mosses to fill in around those bark pieces to make them look a little more natural. I thrifted this birdhouse from Goodwill, and I'm going to take one of my sticks here and add it as a post and glue it on to the wood blank on the right side. I believe these purple berries came from Michael's. I'm just going to sporadically put them throughout. This is another element that I slightly change later on. I have some darker and smaller fern leaves in my stash, so I'm adding a few of them in just to give a nice color variation. I think we need some Spanish moss in the openings of this birdhouse, so I'm going to tuck some of that in there and then use the end of my tool to create a defined opening to the hole. You can see as I go, I am adding in other elements from my stash to give this a more whimsical feel. I set this aside and came back the next day after giving it some thought and decided to make some changes to the bottom portion of the project. I removed one of the larger leaves, removed everything that was tucked inside those 2 holes in the bark, and reduced the number of purple berries to just clean up the overall appearance. As one of the final steps, I'm adding a sign that says no vacancies. Now, I did cheat a little bit here. I did not want to drag out my Cricut machine just to make this tiny bit of text, so I printed it on a label maker and used white acrylic paint with antiquing wax to hide the edges of the sticker. The only thing left to do is to add a ladybug to the bark. Now, I have ladybugs in my stash, but they're much larger than what I wanted here. So here's the size that I have opposed to the size that I want. These tiny bumblebees are the perfect size, so I'm going to turn one of them into a ladybug. And we would not have a woodland theme without a bird sitting at the top of this branch. Here is the completed project. This one was a little more detailed and took a little bit more time, but the outcome is exactly what I wanted. Let me know in the comments what you think about this woodland DIY. I plan to hang it up and display it year-round. Thank you so much, friend, for staying until the end of this video. If you are in the mood for more woodland-themed DIYs, here is a playlist you'll enjoy. And until next time, don't forget to craft what you love.